Here we go. All right. So thank you again for joining. My name is L'Oreal Thompson Payton. I am the editor-in-chief and founder of LTInthecity.com, a lifestyle destination for ambitious millennial women such as yourselves at the intersection of work and wellness. In my day job, I'm also the director of communications for One Goal, and that is a national college access and success organization headquartered here in Chicago. We have regions all across the country. And today I am going to be sharing the step-by-step strategy I use to increase my salary by $30,000. And if we could all just be sure to mute your audio, that way everyone can hear clearly. That would be amazing. I thought I knew how to do that on my own, but it doesn't seem to be working. So bear with me here. I am learning. And there we go. I think we got it. Awesome. All right. So moving on to this. Oops. Okay. So there's me. Before we begin, why we are here on this day in particular, that is Equal Pay Day. It symbolizes how far into the year that women have to work in order to earn the same amount that men earned last year. And this number, 79 cents, is only for white women. Actually, it will take other women much, much longer. As you see here, the racial wage gap is much different. That's the catch. So today is April 2nd, Equal Pay Day for white women. And there is different dates throughout the year. You can see here that on average, Asian women earn 77 cents, almost 85 cents. Black women earn 61, white women 77, so forth and so on, with Latino women earning the least amount at 53 cents. So it's pretty much a lot of BS, but that's why we're here. And so I'm going to share a bit more about my journey in increasing my salary. So a little bit more about my work. I started off as a journalist, and I actually making more in nonprofits than I was back in journalism. So at where was I? Coming back from Paris, actually. I was on a trip from Paris, and I was reading Jen Sincero's You're a Badass. So at about this same time, I was also interviewing in the final negotiation stage for a promotion at work. I was going from media relations manager, making $45,000, to director of external affairs and making $50,000, which was not a lot. As you can tell, it was only a $5,000 difference. And so I was definitely weighing the pros and cons of accepting the offer and thinking about it, and actually asked for a little bit more time to think about it as I was going on this trip right around spring break 2 years ago. And what it made me think about was, okay, if I take it, then am I settling? Am I saying that, yeah, sure, you can pay me less than what I know the offer was for that particular role? And if I didn't, was that leaving money on the table? And ultimately what I decided is that yes, it was leaving money on the table. And so I decided to accept the offer. But on the way back from Paris, I was reading You Are a Badass. And within it, there was a chapter that talked about money. And this chapter was game-changing for a number of reasons. And it just really kind of made it clear to me some of the money ideas, the money mindset that I had essentially inherited or saw throughout, growing up, and how my parents spent money, how my family reacted to money. And that was really not serving me in that space. And what is so great about this chapter, it talked about how you can undo that learning. And it really is mind over matter. It sounds cliche, it sounds hokey, but adapting that abundance mindset is really freeing. I, up until then, really truly thought that I had to choose the purpose over making a profit. And what I learned through this book and conversations with other friends doing really great things is that you don't have to choose. You can have both a purpose and a paycheck. And to want money does not make you a bad person. I think that's the other stigma that we have to free ourselves of, and or think that if you work in an industry that is for a greater cause, that you have to sacrifice that money as well. So this abundance mindset is a concept in which a person believes there are enough resources and successes to share with others. And the key thing to remember here too is that it's also for yourself, so that you are deserving, that you can make money, and that freeing up your mentality about that is exactly what's going to take you further. Jen said it best, that in order to create wealth, you must bring yourself into energetic alignment with the money you desire to manifest. And what is so great in this particular chapter, so this is before she released the follow-up, You're a Badass at Making Money, which I also highly recommend. In reading this chapter, she talks about essentially changing your attitude toward money and opening yourself up to receive it, which is so fundamental. And also talking about finding out what your why is. These are two questions that you need to ask yourself. How much money do you need in order to live comfortably, to afford the life that you want to live? If you dream about jet setting to Paris all the time, that's going to require more money than perhaps, some other goals. Or if you're saving up for a house, or if you want to have, retire by 30, 40, whatever that may be, you need to get clear on what that amount is. And then also figure out why. What is your why? And get really specific about the things and experiences you want to have as a result of earning this money. So at the end of that chapter, there was a prompt for people that Jen encouraged you to essentially set a date, set an amount and set a date, and write down what it is you hope to achieve with that. And this is, again, had debated this promotion to get 50,000, knew that that was under market. And what I wrote in my journal after reading this chapter was that I wanted to make at least $75,000, that I wanted to be able to have an income that would enable me to save for a down payment and buy a house where I could raise my family, and vacation with my family. I'm in Chicago. My family's from Baltimore. My husband's family's in Ohio. Travel is a very large part of our budget because we don't have family here, and I wanted to be able to do that. Gift giving is my love language, and I wanted to be able to give people nice gifts that brought them happiness. I wanted to travel on a whim to visit friends, and I wanted the money to accomplish all of these things. And what that also freed me of was this idea of money as the root of all evil. I started thinking about, no, this can actually help me achieve some of my own personal and professional goals, as well as some of the fun things that I wanted to do as well. And it gave me this larger purpose rather than, okay, I don't want just money for the sake of money, but I can use this money to help my family and friends, and also support causes that I believed in as well. Working in nonprofits, I know that volunteering is extremely important, and money even more so. We're always looking for donors, always looking for people to invest and contribute. And what I will say, since I have gotten this increase in changing my salary from $50,000 to $80,000, is the financial freedom, and also to be able to contribute to causes that I hold near and dear, which is really affecting their bottom line. It makes me feel kind of like a philanthropist, I guess, in the modern way. So it's more than just the money. And what you will see in the follow-up to this webinar in a resource document are some of the mantras that I enjoy personally, that money flows to me and easily, to just, again, set your energy and your vibes and your whole attitude toward money accordingly. There is a, what is it called? Meditation as well that I found really helpful. It's called the Abundance Meditation. I will send you a link to that as well. And just to, again, start to think about money differently and just open yourself up to receive those good vibes and all that money from the universe. I promise you, it is that is the first step. That's what changed my mentality in the sense of I deserve this and I am going to work toward it, but also putting it out in the universe and believing and get very specific. The universe responds really well to specific goals. And so the clearer you can get on your why, what you plan to do with this money, how much you want to earn by when. I had written in my journal, 75,000 by December 31st of 2017, and I got a job offer in November. Of course, with a lot of other work and some of the other steps that we're going to get into, but this is key. This is a foundation, and once you have done this inner work, next it's time to do some of your homework. And I say know your worth and then add tax, because there is just so much information out there. These sites I mentioned here, Glassdoor, PayScale, Career Contessa has a really great salary project that is self-reported, and you can learn about what people are earning across the country and fields similar to yours, and understand, okay, what is the going rate for mid-level, entry level, so forth and so on, and having those conversations. But what really helped me was talking to friends. And I am so grateful for the women who were open and honest and sharing their salary information, because listen, similar to DJ Khaled, like they don't want us to win. HR doesn't want you to know. They don't want you to talk about your salary and what you're earning with your coworkers, but especially not, out in the world and figuring that out. And I had lunch with two girlfriends who were in similar positions to me at other nonprofits, kind of like-sized nonprofits, because that's the pushback that I received when I went to, my manager, the CEO, the VP of HR. It's like, listen, I've done the numbers, or rather, I've done the work. I ran the numbers. I know what the going rate is for this. I'm hearing that my peers, they told me full faith that they were making between 80 and 90,000. Meanwhile, they were offering me 50. And they responded, well, we're a nonprofit. I'm like, okay, but so are these other organizations. That's not an excuse. A lot of times they just want you to feel grateful for the position. They don't want you to question things, and they're just getting by with the, it's for the mission, it's for XYZ cause, and that's the more important thing. And you can do great work and still make money. It's not an either or situation. It's a yes and situation. And once I got over that mental hurdle, because again, coming from journalism, like no one gets into journalism to make money. That is just not a thing that happens unless you're one of the, the few that get to that level. But I'm not Oprah, and so that was not in the cards for me. But growing up, I definitely equated success with helping others and doing good work and making a difference. And so I thought at least that the money wasn't important, and I had to change that mindset. And yeah, once I went back and knew my worth finally and was advocating for it, I got shut down pretty hard. And what that signaled to me then, that this wasn't a place that was going to invest in me and my well-being, my success, because it's not just, okay, I want to make this amount of money. It's like, no, I know what people are making in the similar position. And essentially then was leaving money on the table by accepting this promotion, which I did because, again, don't want to leave money on the table. But I immediately started thinking of my exit strategy and to find a position, then an organization and a role that would compensate me accordingly. So have those conversations with your friends if you're able to, and especially with men as well, because as we know, women are underpaid. So if you have some guy friends in your network who can share their salary as well, all the better. The more information you have, it's the better for you, for everyone involved, because then once you know, then you're able to advocate for yourself and others. So once I found this out too, I wasn't just about like, hey, pay me more. I was also advocating on behalf of my coworkers as well. And it just came to a point where I understood that this wasn't going to happen here. And I set the wheels in motion to go elsewhere and find that. So that takes me to the next part about showing your work, asking for what you're doing. The best time, I say, to interview for, or rather set your salary rather, is during the negotiation phase, after you have they've made the offer and you are reviewing the package and the script to tell your friends what you're doing. Like, I'm interviewing for this, or it's my annual review, doing some research, was wondering if this salary sounds right to you. And that's exactly what I mentioned to the two awesome women who did disclose their salary information to me. And that's when they told me, no, this does not look right. And you should definitely ask for more. And this is my salary. And this is the range for this type of position with your experience. So again, big shout out to them. And making the ask, or in this case, the switch. So I made the ask to my current employer to earn more. And I knew that the 80,000 was way out of their range. And I'd asked them to meet me in the middle at 60. And that also did not go over well. So again, once I had that in writing, the promotion was set. I was like, all right, bet I'm going to find something else. And that's a whole topic for another webinar in terms of finding a new job. But the times that you have the ball is in your court, where you have the most power, is during that initial negotiation phase after you've accepted the job. And then if not, then during your annual review, which actually is coming up at my current employer. So always a fun time for performance reviews. Another script to share for after the offer, and the best thing to do too, this is a conversation you want to have, over the phone. Once they've extended the offer and you thank them and, for the generosity, et cetera, great time interviewing, learning more about the organization and the culture, making the case essentially that based on your experience and the responsibilities involved with the role, wanting to get closer to this number, and have that number in mind, and honestly make it a bit higher than what you are truly wanting, because they're going to negotiate you down. So it's that saying of shoot for the moon rather, land among the stars, and know that there'll be some back and forth with that. And also you can negotiate for things other than salary. I know this is very much money-driven conversation that we're having tonight, but there's also, can negotiate for your paid time off, for flexibility. Just have your list in mind, essentially, and then go one by one in order of importance till you get what you want. They are not going to rescind the offer because you ask for more money. They expect you to ask for more money, but the truth is that a lot of people don't. You just accept the offer as is, and that's it. That's the end of the conversation. And the best advice that I can give you is the best advice that a mentor gave to me, and that is to have the confidence of a mediocre white guy. And like we saw that, play out on a national scale, and your own offices, I'm sure, boardrooms. And so it's just important to have that confidence. So that's what it is as a sale. You're selling yourself. You need to make sure that you practice with a friend ahead of time too. I do this with coworkers, with friends, and like, all right, let's run through the conversation and role play that to get you comfortable with saying the number out loud. If you can't even say the number that you want to earn out loud, why would they give it to you? And then during the review, just come with your receipts. Save everything. Save the email with the kudos from the CEO. Let them know how much earnings you saved in that quarter. Whatever will help you make the case. Your review is the time to bring it up. And if it doesn't go according to plan in that conversation, what you do after that is like, okay, I hear you now. What can we do to address this in 6 months? We don't have to wait a whole another calendar year for the conversation to happen. It's important to put your needs out there, tell them what you bring into the table, because honestly, it costs companies more to replace you than it does to basically give you what you want. But you have to earn it. You have to deserve it. You have to show what you are doing. Come with the receipts and save all of that information. So I know that we are coming up toward the end of our time. I do want to save some time for questions, but the takeaway here is to know your worth and do your homework, ask around, and be honest. Is why I'm having this webinar anyway, is to dispel those myths and make it less taboo to talk numbers, to talk salary, because what we end up doing when we keep it a secret is really doing ourselves and each other a disservice. And so it's time to have those conversations with your girls at brunch. Next time y'all go out, get your mimosas and everything, and then talk numbers, because I can guarantee you the men are doing it. And it's time that we also take back that power and get what's ours and ask for what you're worth. And if you're in a situation where you know it's not going to happen at that organization, it may be time to move on. It doesn't make you a bad person. It's not evil to want money to get paid. And so I just encourage you to have those conversations. My DMs are always open. Feel free to email me as well. If you want to have some more in-depth follow-up questions. But for now, what I'm going to do is take it to some questions. If anybody has anything, we have one. This is from Brandy. Let's see. So Olivia asks, hi, Olivia. How do you have these conversations when your career is a type that does not share salary info / you are the only employee? That is a very great question. What I would encourage you then, because there's not necessarily peers or coworkers that you can talk to, I would definitely recommend asking friends who may be in similar roles in different industries. So for, from startup to financial places and educators as well. I mean, there may be a different title, but a lot of industries have similar roles. So even if the industry doesn't line up exactly, to find out what people are making in similar roles compared to you. So for example, when I was at that former employer, I was in director of external affairs, but when we worked in education, she was their, I think, communications officer. And then one else had a different title, but the roles were pretty similar. So that is what I would recommend. And asking online, Twitter, Facebook groups, some of these networking groups are also great places to ask that as well. And it's more of a, it sounds silly to say private and it's online and it's public, but if you don't want people to know. And then that link that I said I'll send as well, Career Contessa with the salary project, self-reported again. So it's a spreadsheet, I believe, that people submit to. They share that information and trying to stalk it out online. But that's the best advice I would say, is to ask around, ask some friends. And then if you can't find them in real life, people who may have some information, I would recommend doing some digging in some Facebook groups as well that may have that. So great question. Brittany asks, how do you bring up salary if asked during an actual interview session before the offer is given? That is a great question. And I don't know if people do that. It's playing dirty is how I feel. The best advice that I can give is to suggest your range. And I don't advocate for sharing what your current salary is, because A, it's none of their business. B, you could be shortchanging yourself. So let's say if I had told my current employer, like, yeah, I'm making 50, then maybe they would have only offered 55 or 60. You state that, I'm looking for jobs that are in the range of, and then give about a $10,000 range. So in this case, I would have said, looking for a job that's between 70 and 85. And that gives them, the market rate. So you've done your research, you've talked to friends, and they know as well what the rate is. And I always advocate for giving a range rather than an exact number, because that gives you some wiggle room. And having what your sweet spot is, somewhere toward the, let's say, middle-ish of the range. But that is a great question. So hold your cards close. Definitely don't give them all the things. And we have a few more minutes for some questions. And then, as promised, for all of you attending on this beautiful Tuesday night, we'll be giving away a complimentary coaching session to thank you for attending live. And it looks like we have one more question. This one comes from Kamiko. Hello, how are you? The question is, what's the best approach to really selling yourself, advocating for yourself when asking for more money? A deck, growth over time, all all the above, whatever best way you presented. There may be some companies that really respond well to decks. I haven't seen it just because, again, coming from journalism and nonprofits, probably a little bit less technical. I will say what I have done is we have a template essentially that we use for my current organization, and you basically fill out, have your scenarios and lay them out, presenting the evidence essentially. And the easiest way, in my opinion, to do that is to collect it over time in the year. I have actually a folder in my inbox called the Feel Goods folder, where not only do I store the compliments that I receive for my work on those days where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm getting everything wrong, and it boosts your confidence, but also to have evidence that you did this project really well, you saved money here, and just collecting that. So you can have it whatever format works best for you, your manager, in a Google Doc, in a presentation. I think it would be really dope if you make that deck and want to share it with the group. That is awesome. And yeah, it just, it depends on what works best, but I think that is pretty good. So one more question before we bounce. Alexia asks, how to time asking for a raise when the company isn't performing well financially? Is also a great question, and not your problem. I feel like companies will always fall back on that, like, oh, we're not doing it, we're not making the money. But if you are saving the money, if you're bringing in money, if you are doing a good job, you should definitely always ask, like, the financials be damned. And so they're, of course, going to push back. But again, in your review, making that case for this year, I have done all of these things. And if you can't give you money, then ask, what can they give you? Can they give you some more vacation time? Can they give you a higher title? And that way, when it's time for you to move on paper at least, you have this title that's more senior, and the people interviewing you aren't going to know that you weren't making X amount of money tied to that title. So if they can't give you the money, the next best thing is a title. That way it helps you when you're moving on to the next situation. And so, drum roll, please. Our winner tonight for the complimentary coaching session is GM Lewis. GM Lewis, say hello. Please shoot me an email, L'Oreal at ltinthecity.com, to get that set up. I want to thank all of you for coming out tonight, for hanging out with me. And I appreciate all of you. This is my very first webinar. If I didn't get to the questions, I have them saved in the chat. There's some popular ones where I see themes popping up. I will definitely be sure to send out some answers in the follow-up document. Again, thank you. I know the season finale that This Is Us is on tonight. I'm going to go watch that. But I appreciate seeing all your faces and appreciate you joining me this evening. Thank you again so much for everything, and have a great night. Mm-hmm.